Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I'm so glad to have you here. I appreciate your time, your energy, all the good things. Taping this really early Friday morning. I got a couple of things we want to get into today, you all. Some interesting information that I found around this new CDC deputy directive that's been appointed by RFK Jr. And so two things I want to look at today. CDC going, as the old folks used to say, going to hell in a handbasket, right? We're going to look at the CDC, they're going to get RFK Jr. out of there, or like, is it just going to crumble? All the reputable people walking away or being dismissed. We're going to take a look at that. And secondly, we're going to take a look at what is going to happen in Chicago and the fact that J.B. Pritzker and others, we got the DA out of Philly now even coming out and saying, look, if you all want to come here and send the National Guard and they in any way harm our troops, they could be facing charges that are state charges, no immunity from that. So something to think about. We're going to take a look at both of those things. But first, I want to share a couple of good news items with you all. I've been doing that lately on my videos and been getting some really good feedback around that. So it's nice to, kind of check in on that high note before we look at some of the more challenging things. By the way, in honor of today, the 29th, again, I'm taping this early Friday morning, in honor of New Orleans or New Orleans, as some people say. I'm using the Hoodoo Tarot today, right? So because today marks the 29th, I think, marks the official 20th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina. So really want to honor those first, who lost their lives due to that horrific tragedy, but also celebrating the indomitable spirit of the city. Absolutely one of my favorite places in the world. And even for those who left, and were not able to come back, they still carried the soul of New Orleans, in them and with them wherever they are. So want to celebrate that. That's why I'm using the Hoodoo Tarot today. If you are just landing on the channel, you're not familiar with me, I'm a Fefe with Touch by Tarot and Beyond. Been doing this forever, a couple of, decades. So this is my jam, reading tarot and oracle. I'm also a former newspaper journalist. So I'm an initiated priestess in both Wiccan and African traditions. So I blend my spiritual with my career and try to, use all of that to bring you some good content here on the channel. Speaking of that as well, please, trying to grow the channel, get that algorithm to get the video out there to more people. I appreciate your help. I understand there's a new hype feature that you can use. You can press a button or maybe look on your settings to hype the videos, and that helps YouTube, the algorithm, push it out to more people. And always, please comment, hit that like button and the subscribe button. All of those things help the channel get more attention and gain more traction. I really appreciate that. I love doing this work and I want to keep it going, keep it pushing. All right, that's it. So let's do that, right? That said, all right, couple of good news things. How about, I talked about Lisa Cook, the Fed governor who is, having a run-in with DT, right? So talked about her case, but guess who the judge is that her case has now been put in front of? Gia Cobb, who is a Biden appointee. 2021 she was appointed, but importantly, she is also a judge who issued a ruling and blocked the DOJ's efforts at mass deportations. Okay, so she's going to be an interesting judge to have in front of this case now with Lisa Cook. We're going to keep our eyes on that, but that is definitely a big good news that that case was assigned to her. How about, I guess you pronounce her name Caitlin Dre? You all get me straight on these pronunciations. I do my best, you all. I appreciate it. But how about she flipped in Iowa State Senate? She flipped that seat blue. So she broke this supermajority that I didn't know this, a GOP supermajority in the Iowa State Senate that had held for 13 years. She broke it. Woo! I wish I had one of those like woo woo things. So really good news about that. We wish her the absolute best. Interestingly, the DNC, Ken Martin, head of the DNC, they've been saying they sent 30,000 volunteers or had 30,000 volunteers in the area to help with Dre's campaign. So let this be a model, hopefully, for them to continue to push for the down ballot races around the nation, right? Especially as we get ready to head into those midterms next year. So it shows that helps. It makes a difference. And the DNC is, you better get its act together, because there's a whole mountain load of work that's in front of them. All right. Wes Moore, governor of Maryland, has kind of shifted and come out of this sort of moderate approach that he had been taking towards this administration, DT administration, and saying, look, you want to come here, you're invited, you can come here anytime and walk the streets and see what's happening with us. Well, from what I understand, his latest post on social media, he called DT, what was that? I want to get it right, President Bone Spurs. So he's taking a page sort of out of Gavin Newsom's book, where it's just like, take it to him, get under the skin kind of thing. Wes Moore has entered the chat, you all. He is looking at how Gavin Newsom's doing some things. I think we're going to see that more from some other Democratic governors. But welcome, Wes Moore, to the different side of the chat. We welcome that. And along those lines as well, last bit of good news, Barack Obama has come out and said what needs to be said, which is, rather than stressing from that Democratic, standpoint, liberal standpoint, freedom and democracy and values and ethics, he's just come straight out and said, all Americans are at risk. All Americans are at risk. Okay? We got it. We got it. We need that. We need to speak that language in a more direct and effective way. And so glad to have Barack Obama still has tremendous influence across cultures, across age brackets, etc. Really, really, he'd been another one kind of laid back, and we weren't hearing a whole lot from him. But I think now that he's in, all the way in the chat, we're going to see more and more from him, and that's good news as well. All right, you all. Let's get to some business. This CDC revolt. We saw them that walkout in, I think it was Atlanta, and all the crowds, applauding, etc. We know that what's her name, Susan Manares, was fired, right? Hadn't been on the job but a month. But why? Because she said, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to behave in a way that I know contradicts science and contradicts what is really in the best interest of the American people. We also have this leader who has voluntarily resigned, Dmitry Daskalakis. I hope I'm saying his name correctly. Openly gay, brilliant guy who has said, none of us are doing this. So there is this tremendous revolt happening at the CDC among those who know how to do the job, who understand science, who have been pivotal in implementing policies that are beneficial to the American public. That said, this new person that RFK Jr. has appointed as his deputy now, this Jim O'Neill, former speechwriter for George W. Bush, no medical training. Let me say that again. Former speechwriter for George W. Bush, no medical training whatsoever. However, his background, what he does come from, he is the former, if I got my facts straight, he is the former CEO. I'm assuming former, because if he's taking this job, I don't see how he could do both. Former CEO of Peter Thiel's foundation. Ready for that? Peter Thiel, head of Palantir, now AI in these databases. That part, that guy, right? The guy who, we'll get to Vance in a moment, the guy who is clearly, the puppet master of J.D. Vance, all right? For entertainment purposes only. So, and among the things that I understand that this Jim O'Neill did as CEO of the Thiel Foundation was to implement $200,000 grants to college dropouts who were interested in other endeavors. Whatever that meant. All right, we'll look more into that. But here's the other thing. So Jim O'Neill, now deputy director with no medical training of the CDC, ties like this. He has openly said Peter Thiel is his patron, quote unquote patron. So what's Peter Thiel up to lately? Besides Palantir and these AI databases that are, among other things, the thing that is being used by, what's his name, Pulte, the guy who's been pulling these mortgages and coming after Lisa Cook, Adam Schiff, and Tish James, right? How are they getting this information so quickly? Where's this information about their mortgages and their, from Palantir in these databases? All right, so Peter Thiel is one to really, really watch. And I know many of you have said, is he ultimately the one pulling all the strings, especially because if old boy DT checks out at some point, whenever, not wishing harm on anybody, but who steps up? Who's next in charge? JD. For however long that lasts. Spirit has said that won't last. But still, who's pulling JT's strings? Now, we talked about September being a really wild month. Well, I just found out it got wilder, you all, because what is Peter Thiel up to in September? He has been invited, I want to get it right. He has been invited to give a 4-part lecture series on, get this, the title, The Politics of the Antichrist. I had to take a sip of my coffee, get my throat chakra together on that one. Politics of the Antichrist. He's being hosted in all places in Gavin Newsom's backyard in San Francisco for this 4-part lecture series being organized by this collect called the Acts 17, the biblical reference, Acts 17 Collective. He's being hosted by the Commonwealth Club of San Francisco. Again, this is a private event, not being transcribed and not being made public. But his talk, apparently the topic is going to be on the politics of the Antichrist and the biblical figure of the Antichrist. What the heck is he going to be? What is he talking about? What is that all about? With this Christian nationalism, with someone like J.D. Vance having converted to Catholicism at pretty much at the directive of Peter Thiel. Like, y'all, it's getting thicker and thicker and thicker. I want to take a look at the CDC. Is RFK Jr., is this whole thing going to bottom out? How can it stand? Spirit, the future of the CDC under RFK Jr. What is the future of the CDC under RFK Jr.? I don't feel like he's going to get removed, but maybe. That's me. That's a fefe. Let's go to Spirit. Stakes are so high. I mean, what do we do in the event of another pandemic or other threats to our health? COVID-19 vaccines availability. All right, we have the Daughter of Pentacles. This is medicine. And this is the treatment of the American public that's at stake. Future of the CDC and RFK Jr. We have the High Priestess. Interesting, they call her Miss Ida in this deck. The High Priestess. So there's a lot more that's going to come to light that will be revealed around RFK Jr.'s ineptitude is the word that Spirit just gave me. We already know. Like, come on. They were talking about the man being wackadoodle for entertainment purposes only forever, even during his confirmation. Like, how did this even happen? We have Wheel of Fortune. They call it Aunt Caroline in this deck. The Wheel of Fortune, you all. Karma, some would say. Destiny, fate. Is RFK Jr. going to have to leave? Let's ask. What do we got to lose? 17, the grandchildren, the star. It will take a while. But there is an the word they just gave me, you all, was like there is an implosion. For instance, this walkout that we saw, all of the reputable and experienced and qualified people within the CDC now being, ushered out, it being run by people who have not a clue. This leader, Dmitry Daskalakis, was doing a lot of interviews yesterday, and he said one of the reasons that he's resigned and many others is that RFK Jr. has not had one meeting with them, has not read one report from them, has not done anything to familiarize himself with with what they do, with the reports, with the knowledge, with the trends in medicine, with the needs of the hasn't done any of that. And so I think that's what we're seeing with this star. With the star energy, you all, it's that things will take a turn. And we've heard, even astrologically and otherwise, this is a horrific period of time that when we get on the other end of it will help us understand more than ever why we need to look out for one another. This is a movement more towards an Aquarian, one for all and all for one, humanity, the sake of humanity, going back to Barack Obama saying all Americans are at risk. That's what this star energy is about. But that also, the star doesn't move just like that. It is a process. So it's almost as if Spirit, are you saying that the bottom has to fall out of the CDC in order for it to be rebirthed? Is it that it just has to crumble in order to be rebirthed? The Six of Swords, it's got to move. It's got to move along this path. And going back to that High Priestess that we saw, because there will be more information that comes out. We're hearing things like, we're hearing the name of people like Jim O'Neill, but the stories that will continue to come out about who is Jim O'Neill really connected to, you know? Who are these people, and the fact that, and the Eight of Wands, more information, and it's going to come out rapidly, but rapidly over a period of time. It's going to be like boom, 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 boom. This will not let up. And as a result of that, will RFK Jr. be removed, or will he have to resign? Seven of Cups, so he's going to have to figure out his choices, being given some options. I don't see, just because he's proven DT, or what did Westmore call him, President Gabon Spurs? Yeah, he's just been so reluctant to admit any mistakes and to let people go. And the Three of Pentacles, he's going to, this almost feels like at some point RFK Jr. may have to try and, because this is a card of collaboratively working together, you all, Three of Pentacles. This feels like to save himself, to save any inkling of, or any piece of his reputation, as it were, RFK Jr. That he's gonna have to try and find almost like backtracking, or finding a way to work with reputable people in medicine, in the science field. And the Five of Wands, oh wow, but conflicts abound around him. So you all, the bottom line I'm getting from this is Spirit is saying CDC is going to hell in a handbasket. And I am also getting that there will be science and medicine and input offered outside of that institution, the CDC, to help Americans should the need arise, right? Should there be some other sort of national, a pandemic-esque sort of, situation that comes up, there will be people who intervene. And it could even be some of these same CDC experts who have left or been terminated. There will be people who intervene on behalf of the American people. It will not trickle down to the point where we're just left out in the lurch entirely. But as an institution, the damage that is being done, it is going to take that star card. It's going to take a while for them to regroup once we get a new administration in office. Spirit, am I correct about that, to close that part out? Nine of Swords, they call it the Nine of Knives in this deck. Yeah, it's going to be so incredibly stressful with the Mother of Pentacles, because the people need care. And I wonder as well, I don't know if this is Susan Menares, the former head of the director that was let go, but there will be people who come back because they're so incredibly worried about what this really means for the American public and the health of the American public. They're not going to be silenced. But the help that the American public gets will be from people like that, rather than really being able to rely on CDC, clearly. The other part of that, though, that's really troubling is this JD Vance piece, because again, should President Bone Spurs exit stage left whenever that happens, and then JD Vance is put in place, and you've got people like Teal absolutely in control and pulling the strings. Is this another area where he's going to get clarity? Four of Swords. My question, I'm sorry, I'm thinking and talking at the same time. Can I walk and chew gum? Is they're trying to. JD doesn't have a clue, for entertainment purposes only, right? But he doesn't have a clue. He really is reliant on others helping to direct him. He wants the power, but he doesn't have the grasp, the real grasp of how to rule, how to I don't hate to say that word rule, but especially with all the dictator stuff going on, but you know what I mean. How to govern. How about that? How to govern. Doesn't know. Doesn't know. He's so, from eating the dogs in Ohio and the cats and whatever. He's so about the pushback and being smart and being witty that actual governance is not his strong suit, and that's what he's relying on the people in the background for. We have the Eight of Wands. His demise is going to come faster than we know, and Spirit has said that before, talking about JD. So the issue is going to be, I think when we saw that High Priestess before, is that we're not hearing a lot in major media about who is really pulling the strings, right? Teal's name comes up every now and again around Palantir, as well as some others who are connected with that and these databases that are being used. I got my Ace of Cups. Spirit, if you are with me, when I get my aces, Spirit is telling me I'm on the right track. So here's the deal. This is bigger than RFK Jr., and this is bigger than a Jim O'Neill, who, unbelievable. But these things are going to start to get connected so that the flashlight, if you will, is going to be increasingly shined on JD, especially if he has to assume the mantle of power. Woo! That's that star as well. Talk about shining a light. That's that star energy that we saw. All right, you all. And I want to close out the reading with, we said we were going to look at, let me spray. Essential oils. People ask, cleanse the deck, cleanse me. All right. Ooh, it smells so good. Let me share it with you. All right. J.B. Pritzker came out and said, look, the DHS, Department of Homeland Security, has already reached out to some naval base. I'm sorry, I didn't write it down. A naval base in Illinois to say, look, we need a place to land. We need a place to set up. We need to be, we need your cooperation. I did not see where they have, this naval base has said, sure, come on. But, are they going to say no? But in the meantime, Pritzker has come out forcefully and said, and eloquently said, justice will be served. It may take some time, but you need to be mindful of the fact that if you come here, troops, and you mistreat our people, snatching people, knocking them down in the ground, behaving any way toward them, you will face charges. You will be prosecuted. And then we had this DA out of Philly, what's his name? Larry Krasner came out and said, I second that. We're not going to allow that here. Spirit, will that impact the way that troops perform? Because we already know they're walking around the Lincoln Memorial, they're walking around Union Station like they're just walking around. Karen Bass in L.A. said that while they were there, she knew they were sitting around in the government buildings playing video games, many of them all day. Like, it's such a farce, and it's an expensive farce. Hundreds of millions of dollars being spent, taxpayer dollars being spent to do this. All right, we have the Three of Cups. I'm looking at the potential for prosecutions against troops who are assigned to go to Illinois. Chicago specifically. And I have the Four of Pentacles. I tell you what, they're going to slow their roll. These troops, and you think about it, thank you, Spirit. You think about it. Four Pentacles is a card of, ooh, let me hold on. Let me hold my horses for a minute. Let me take stock of what's going on here. That message is going to land among the troops, and Spirit has indicated for a while now that with all of this attempt at having President Bone Spurs having his own paramilitary and misusing the troops this way, that at some point the troops were going to, and all of the firings of the generals and the respected leaders within the branches of the military, that they're saying, this is not what we signed up for. And this is not what we believe. And this is not what we're trained to do. This is not what we do. We don't use force against our own citizens. That's the assessment that's taking place in that Four of Pentacles, especially now that they are being told point blank, you could face prosecution. You could be in trouble if you do this. And we have that, now we have the Four of Cups that comes, these two fours. Fours are foundational. And when you think about the military and the foundations of the principles of the military and the members of the military and what they have taken an oath to do, it's violating that. And the Four of Cups says, I'm not feeling good about this. I have some doubts about this. This is not what I signed up to do. Not only that, you all, but when we do see these clips of those in uniform walking around DC, and when we saw them in LA, and we will see them in Illinois. Let me back up for a second, Spirit. I skipped right past that part. Will DT deploy the forces in? Are they going to go to Chicago? Will we see them in Chicago? Six of Cups. Yeah, I'm feeling like that's a yes. Six of Cups, because he's promised it so much. And Judgment. He's promised it. He's come out, so he's almost too far in to back out. He may be taco around tariffs and certainly taco around Putin, but he's not going to be taco around this issue. He's too far in to pull back. And there's the they call him the Son of Coins. That's like the Prince of Pentacles. You know what's interesting? He's going to DT is, I'm getting from this, you all, he's going to increasingly make perhaps JD or Hexeth more of the face of who's really pushing this military, this militarization. He's going to try and put them in the hot seat and make them the face of it. And I got my ace of swords. Spirit is saying yes, that's the case, because it's becoming set up to be failure. Thank you, Spirit. Got it. It's being set up to become a huge, massive failure because of Pritzker, this DA in Philly, Krasner, other blue mayors, blue cities, blue states, etc., who are going to increasingly resist this and find a legal basis to do so. So it becomes a wash. And when they start tallying up, thank you, Spirit, when they start tallying up I'm hearing billions, because 300 million in this city, 300 million in that city, another three. Next thing you know, when they tally up the amount of money that will have been wasted putting these troops in these various cities and states, yeah, you think there won't be a backlash because of that, right? Sorry, I had a card fall. I'm just curious to see what it was. Six of Pentacles, exactly. The assessment, the gamble. I love that this deck is showing those dice and the money, right? The gamble that you took. You threw away our money for something that wasn't necessary. It didn't stop crime. The troops are not feeling comfortable with it. They're like, what the heck? This is not my life. This is not what I signed up for. So the whole thing is a real wash, you all. All right? Thanks so much for hanging out with me. I appreciate you. Again, please remember to hit that like, subscribe, hype button if you wouldn't mind hyping the video. I love having you here with me. I love doing this work. I'll check in probably again on Sunday. I tend to do Sunday for beginning of the week, Wednesday midweek check-in, and then I'll do a Friday end of week check-in with you all. And remember, throughout all of this, I close out with my keep your head, your chin high. Know who you are, right? Keep your shoulders back. If that chin goes up, the shoulders should go right back with it. Remember, walk tall. Know who you are. Know that you count. Know that you matter. Know that your energy and your prayers are being heard and being felt. And it does result in people being encouraged. Like attracts like, right? And for all days and all times, stay centered in your heart, right? Love yourself. Be compassionate with your families, with one another, and breathe deep. All right? I'll talk to you real soon. Bye.